It's time to address the Nintendo Switch 2 third-party fallacy, because this is an epidemic in the community, something that everyone does, and yet isn't really being called out at this stage. And I think this is the most critical aspect of the Switch 2 and its launch lineup, its post-launch period, and just the coping and seething we've seen from PC gamers and alternative platform fans. The obsession with pretending as if people don't play third-party games on this platform. Because from where I'm sitting, right now I'm playing through Shin Megami Tensei 5. I'm going to pick up Silksong when it comes out. Down the line I'll be playing games like, I don't know, Shinobi, like Katamari Damacy. There's just lots of really good, high-profile games on the horizon for this thing. But the way you hear YouTubers tell it every single time is that those games don't count because they're not Nintendo exclusives. So, we're at the weird point where Nintendo Switch 2 is getting third-party games. They are identical to the high-end PC versions. There's no discernible, cut content or changes made or anything of that nature. The Switch 2 version is on par with the other versions of these games, and yet you're still seeing people insist that, nobody is going to play Silksong on Nintendo Switch 2 when Nintendo Switch is actually the most popular platform, the most popular console for it. Silksong is by far going to outstrip the PlayStation and Xbox versions on Nintendo platforms, and very likely may also outstrip the PC version. We'll have to wait and see on that front. But this is an example of a major third-party game that's launching day and date on Nintendo Switch 2, and everyone's just brushing it under the rug. They're trying to say that, people are going to play it on other platforms, that it doesn't matter, or that, this isn't a major release. And it's just the biggest of Kamehameha copes. You keep seeing this when, with people like Darkside Phil, oh, once I'm done with, Donkey Kong Bonanza, the Switch 2 is just going to collect dust again. And I'm just hey, genius, you've been playing that game thing consistently since Mario Kart World came out. Even if you're Darkside Phil and spend a month playing Mario Kart and then a month playing Bonanza, you've been playing the Switch 2. Who exactly are you trying to convince that this thing, isn't doing well, or that people aren't playing games on it? You can see people like Mudahar, who, begged his audience to, not buy this thing, and then had to, turn tail and pick one up anyway, because, I'm a YouTuber. I had to pick it up because I had to review it, so I can tell you not to buy it. You bought it. Okay? You debunk your own argument by buying it. And that's true for every other personality on the platform. Every single person who insists that there's nothing coming out for this thing, who aren't playing their consoles, they are completely and totally delusional. Fritanga plays, Darkside Phil, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. The community really doesn't want to admit just how successful the Switch 2 has been out of the gate. So successful, in fact, that I really don't expect PlayStation and Xbox to really recover. And we are going to see a gradual decline of relevancy from PC gaming because of that. Monster Hunter Wilds being a really good example, where the game is basically unplayable on PC, has tanked in relevancy. Capcom has not fixed the game after months, and now it's this hugely hated game in the community. It's not something people are talking about, but the entire narrative among the PC master race that PC gaming was going to save us from consoles has completely and utterly imploded. And I do think the Switch 2 is a really good indication of how that's going to look, because this console had a high number of high-profile third-party ports day one that found success. Like, let's just face the facts. Hitman was successful, Street Fighter 6 was successful, Fantasy Life 2 was successful, Tony Hawk was successful, Hogwarts Legacy has been successful, like Dragon Ball, Sparking Zero will be successful, Elden Ring will be successful. All of these games are coming out on this platform, some of them day and date, some of them late ports. Some of them are like coming out on this platform and finding huge success. And sometimes in like really shocking, like Hitman's like a really good example. It's a game I didn't get a hold of. It's something that I wasn't going to pick up on PC or other platforms, and I saw it was on Switch too, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to pick that up. And guess what? Now it's one of my favorite games on the platform, and probably one of the best games I've played this year. Like just because these ports are late aren't diminishing their relevancy or success, because the good games are still getting released on Nintendo platforms. Like it's just like this huge double standard. Like it's a complete reversal of what we saw back in the Wii U days, where like third parties didn't put their games on the console at all. Like now they are, they're begging Nintendo like to put their games on their console because like their preferred platforms are going bust right now. They're putting their games out there, and yeah, they're doing very, 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 very well. And yet you're still seeing people act as if Nintendo is somehow behind the times or can't compete or that like they're too expensive. Like just compare the complaints about the price of Switch 2 versus the absolute crickets we have just heard in regards to Sony raising the price of the PS5 Pro to like $700. Who do you even know who is acknowledging that as like a real thing that actually happened? Who do you know who's bringing that up? Like who even like acknowledges that's a thing? And meanwhile, you had these entire like campaigns trying to boycott the Switch 2, trying to like downplay every single one of its games, and it's just resulted in this extremely embarrassing just cope cycle that like I think has been imploding upon itself since the console came out. Because you're not fooling anybody if you try and say Mario Kart World is a bad game. You're not fooling anybody if you try and say Donkey Kong Bonanza is a bad game. Like, even if those games aren't your favorites, there are plenty of other options on the platform. And you can't simply just point to other versions of these games that exists on other platforms and say that that somehow like discredits the Nintendo version. No, that isn't how this works. You are not going to downplay third-party games on Nintendo consoles. You are not going to walk off the fact that you lied about how well these games were doing at launch. You are not going to like escape the reality that you have found yourself in where Nintendo is the market leader, that PC and mobile cannot compete, and that Nintendo will continue to dominate this industry for decades to come.